depending when you're watching this, I want to invite you to my first live webinar on Thursday, the 22nd of July at 7 p.m, where I'm going to be teaching you all about land sourcing, how to find the most profitable off-market deals, direct to landowner, package them up, sell them on, or retain them for yourself. Also, we're going to talk about my new 6-week program, which is starting on the 1st of August, which dives in depth into all of this topic. You don't want to miss it. Hopefully see you there. Hey guys, it's Rosie here, and today I'm going to talk you through the 3 main ways you can source development opportunities. So I define these as hot, warm and cold leads, and whether or not they're hot or cold depends on how eager the landowner is to sell, not necessarily the quality of these leads. So first of all, we have our hot leads, and what this means is these is our most motivated landowners. So these are any opportunities that are listed publicly for sale. So this could be with a normal estate agent or with a specific land agent. So obviously, because they have gone out of their way to list them as being publicly for sale, we know that this is a highly motivated landowner who actively wants to sell this development opportunity. Most commonly, these types of opportunities already have some form of planning in place, and therefore you tend to pay much more for these opportunities than ones you find off market, which we will discuss later. When you're buying a parcel of land with a land agent, this means you're buying from an agent who is more specialised in the disposal of development opportunities. This is good because normally the valuation that they put on a parcel of land has a financial appraisal behind it. So normally it's more accurate than if you were to have a property listed with a normal estate agent. Another good thing about using a specialist land agent is that because they do understand development, the development journey in more detail, you can be more confident when you're having to negotiate via an agent that they can transmit the message you're saying correctly. So of course, if you're talking about terminology like conditional contracts, option agreements, subject to planning, anything like that, unless the person you're conveying that to can then convey that correctly and with confidence to the landowner, you may find that the deal falls through, not because that the deal wasn't sound or your offer wasn't actually acceptable, simply because the agent who was translating that wasn't able to do it with enough confidence. So working with your land agents is great for that, and normally they can offer more support surrounding that deal than a standard agent because they're more comfortable with it. You also, of course, have your standard agent. So this is the sort of estate agent that would sell a normal second-hand home. So they may come across an opportunity, or someone may come to them with a parcel of land asking them to sell it. Agents being agents, obviously they're not going to say no, they may put it on Rightmove. The issue being they may not understand how to value a parcel of land. They may not have gone to a third party to help them with that process. So they may use something like the a third rule, which very rarely works. In order to value that parcel of land. And this is essentially of the total gross development value of a site, a third should be the land value, a third should be construction or other costs, and then a third should be developer profit. And naturally, this tends not to be the case. So because of that, you tend to find that they don't value things correctly. They may not have the understanding of the development process in order to convey messages correctly either. So the limitations are that you may struggle to get deals done unless you're able to go direct to the landowner via the agent. However, one good thing about working with standard agents is that sometimes they aren't fully aware of the land's value, or because they can't appraise correctly, they may undervalue it at times, and therefore sometimes you are more likely to get a bit of a deal with a standard agent. One negative, broadly speaking, about working with agents is that there is more competition. So as I mentioned, these are publicly listed sites that are listed for sale for everyone to see. This means you're competing with as many people as want to see that or want to offer on that site. Naturally, competition means that the price rises. Normally, you are also competing with particularly cash-rich developers at this end of the market. Because they're cash-rich, they don't have to do the risky planning stage of other types of sites. They are simply able to buy parcels of land that already have planning via agents because they don't need bank funding, they don't have funding costs, and the margins that they ultimately offer based on are what is suitable for them, not suitable for a bank. So they can always offer more, which means you are at risk of putting in a lot of work just to be outbid. Similar reasons for the fact that construction companies will also be bidding against you on these parcels of land. So a construction company can obviously do a lot of the work in-house at cost, and therefore their costs on an appraisal are much lower than perhaps yours as a standard developer. So again, they are potentially able to offer more on that parcel of land and outbid you. The benefit of our hot leads is they're normally ready to go, or they're closer to being ready to go, i.e. you could be buying a parcel of land that has detailed planning permission in place and you simply have to discharge pre-commencement conditions and then you can get started on site. So if for whatever reason you had a gap in your development pipeline, perhaps a site didn't get planning when you thought it would, buying a site via an agent that already has either outline or detailed planning in place is a really great way to fill that gap. Next, we have our warm leads. So these are warm because the landowner might be motivated to sell. So our warm leads are leads that come from Planning Pipe. So Planning Pipe is a subscription software which will data scrape planning portals from across the UK, or you can tell them exactly what portals you want. If you wanted just the Midlands, you can filter it down to just that. They will data scrape for all of the decisions made that week and all of the submissions made that week. This means that you're able to approach an opportunity either as it's been decided or as it's been submitted to planning. The sort of thought process behind this being that if someone is pursuing planning, there is a chance that they may want to sell, which is why I mean they are warm leads, because they might want to sell. So of course, some of these people will be developers who will retain it. Some of these people might be landowners who want to sit on that permission for a while. They may not choose to sell it straight away. However, within that mix, it's quite comfortable that you will find a certain percentage of them, their whole intention of getting planning in the first instance was to sell it on. So therefore, you're getting in prior to agents, and you may be able to negotiate directly with that landowner, skip agency fees, and perhaps even skip the competition if you're able to convince them not to take it to market and just deal with you directly. Some of the negatives of our warm leads are, again, these sites have planning, therefore the landowner's expectations for the land purchase price are inherently going to be higher, which means it's harder to get a deal on these sites. And then finally, we have our cold leads. So don't let the fact I've called them a cold lead sound negative. To me, these are the most valuable type of lead you can have. So these are our off-market, direct to landowner opportunities that you will identify yourself using mapping softwares. So you will apply planning knowledge and general development knowledge to look at parcels of land to establish, do you think they could get a planning approval on them perhaps in the next year or two? Also, is that something that you would like to pursue, i.e. is it the right type of development site? If so, you will send a letter to that parcel of land. You will take off from your mapping software. So we use Nimbus Maps here at Newman Rose, but there are other softwares you can use too. You'll get the title information. You will send a letter to the owner, essentially establishing that you are interested in purchasing their land. Now they're cold because you are approaching people that may, first of all, not even be slightly aware that their land has development potential, but secondly, they may not have considered selling at all or even considered selling at all in the future. So this could be a parcel of land that this couple thought they were going to retire on. And therefore, that process of getting them from initially even responding to your letter all the way through to agreeing a deal can be quite a long process that you really need to nurture them along, because you have to essentially frame their mind into the idea of selling, because it isn't pre-framed for you like with our hot and warm leads. However, the beauty of these leads is that you are going to be taking these sites through planning yourself, and therefore you're not going to pay as much for them. The goal with these opportunities is to agree a purchase price which is below the market value that that parcel of land would have with the benefit of planning on an option agreement. So an option agreement gives you the right but not the obligation to purchase that parcel of land for a fixed period of time at a fixed price. During this time, you'll of course pursue the planning process. Now, one thing to mention, this is at risk, so planning is never guaranteed, and you need to put your time and money into pursuing a planning application. The goal being, at the end, you of course achieve a planning approval, and now you've increased the value of that land. So for example, you may option up a parcel of land for £400,000, pursue planning at your own risk, and at the end it's worth £700,000. You've created £300,000 of equity in that deal via the planning process. This becomes so valuable later on in the development journey, both from a finance perspective and a construction perspective. Finance, because it straight away brings the total cost to value down, and therefore the loan to values that the banks are willing to offer gives you more cost coverage. This makes funding 10 times easier than if you're looking at one of your hot leads where the margins are much tighter. And then from a construction perspective, the whole journey just becomes a lot easier, more enjoyable and less stressful. And this is because, let's say on your off-market opportunity, you're actually looking at a margin of 28% pre-finance versus one of 22% from an agent. This extra 6% margin essentially means there's more margin for error. So for example, your ground investigation report comes back a bit negative. Rather than that being the be all and end all of that deal, it's now simply an annoyance factor, but it doesn't cripple the deal. So at no point is there that same stress that one small thing could bring it all toppling down. Also, you can be a bit more liberal with your design and your specification when there is a higher margin, because that means there's a higher budget as well. Overall, this just makes the entire process a lot more enjoyable for you as a developer, because essentially you don't have to stress every single day that something could go wrong and ruin the whole deal. And you know, these construction journeys can comfortably be 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. The last thing you want is to be stressing every single day of that over every single penny in a deal. Having an off-market opportunity with a high margin in, profit in the land, means that the construction journey is fun, and that's what the focus really should be on. So that is the 3 ways you can source development opportunities. Like I say, I have my preference with the cold leads, but hot and warm leads are also great and serve a purpose as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video and found it useful. If there's anything you want me to cover in the future, just comment below and I'll do as much as I can to cover those. If not, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.